All right, welcome back to the podcast. It's kicking off this new year in 2025. We have an amazing guest on, Doc Geo. He's a former Marine infantryman, former Navy corpsman, and also a former Western fighter for the Ukrainian army, who got in some significant battles in Ukraine in 2022 and 2023. Doc, thanks for coming on, bro.
Thank you for having me, man. It's really cool. I'm honored.
Absolutely. So what is... no, I'm glad like I said, I've seen you on some other stuff, especially like Urban Valor TV, and Nick has talked a lot about you as well. We'll just start off, man, like right out the gate, your journey into the Marine Corps, like what years was those, and what drove you to be wanting to go into the infantry?
So the reason why I wanted to go in the Marine Corps is it's since third grade, man. I have an older brother who he was in boot camp during 9/11, and so I already knew kind of, even as a kid, I knew what that meant. He was going to go to war, and I kind of took it upon myself. I told everyone, hey, I've joined the Marine Corps. Everybody who's known me since I was a kid. I was doing pull-ups on the playground, like since I could still crank out 30 pull-ups now, man. Since I was a kid, I was doing them, and everybody who's known me growing up knew I was gonna join. So I initially, my brother was telling me to go officer, and so I was doing this PLC program right after high school in 2012, but I didn't get selected for that because I went from a community college to, a 4-year, and the other people in the officer board or the other candidates were going straight to 4-year schools. So when I didn't get selected, I said, I'm enlisting, I'm going infantry, because that's what I wanted anyways. And the rest is history, man. I joined the Marine Corps, or I went to boot camp, and it was crazy, man. All the stuff that I've kind of watched videos as a kid, and it's all happening in real life. And then to my luck, one of the drill instructors I was with in the Marine Corps was one of my brother's boots when my brother was in Fallujah post invasion. So they were showing me extra love,
Extra love isn't like more hazing, or actually extra love?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It was, I mean, I know what their intentions were, but they had a hard time getting to me because I went into boot camp being able to crank out 30 pull-ups. So a lot of times, when they make you go do something, you have to stop by the pull-up bar. And I'm in San Diego. I went to boot camp in San Diego, so I'd be doing pull-ups, and they're screaming at me because a lot of guys, they can't do 10 or 15. And so with me, I'm just cranking them out, and they just got tired. They said, "You know what, Roman, just get down and run. Go chase the airplanes," So they had me running instead. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm one of those kids that couldn't barely do pull-ups, so I understand that.
Yeah, man.
They're like, go do them. Like, I can't do 3, 4. I'm one of those kids.
Yeah, no, dude.
That's awesome. So what years did you go in?
2012 to 2020. And then I went...
Oh, so you're in for 8 years?
Yeah, and then I went to... I already knew, my last year in the Marine Corps, I was going to transfer to the Navy. So as soon as I got out, my chain of command signed a release of contract, and then I jumped ship to the Navy. And yeah, then did Navy from 2020 to 2022, right before I went to Ukraine.
And so what were those years like for you? I mean, it's like 2020 or 2012 to 2020, those years in the Marine Corps, still in the GWAT, you're infantryman. Where'd you end up getting stationed? What was life like?
Oh, dude. So I went reserve. I was in 223 Golf Company.
Okay.
I got to do a lot of cool stuff, man. The one thing I tell people is the Marine Corps, the military, is what you make of it. I got to my unit as a Lance Corporal. I was promoted, pretty quick in the beginning, because I always like took it upon myself, as far as leadership, to take care of my boys and stuff. And my chain of command saw that. My team leaders, my first team leaders saw that. So I was meritoriously promoted. And while I was in, because I was really good at running, hiking, shooting, like first class everything, I got to do, like, we had the Marine Corps Rifle Squad, Super Squad competition. That was really cool, man. That was one of the highlights of my career. It's like they did it back in the 80s. It was televised and stuff up until the war started in, 2001. Every infantry unit picks out 12 of their best dudes to go compete with other units. We were doing this in Alaska, and the sun doesn't set in Alaska in the summertime, man. So it was a real trip, going on patrols, and it was cool, man. We got to do a lot of, then, you're doing like burpees and then running to a shed and doing like a multiple choice, like infantry knowledge test and stuff. And it was cool. My squad won. And so even like on our dress blues, we got to have like a golden like shooting badge next to our like rifle expert badge. So that was pretty cool. And my unit got activated shortly after that. We deployed. We did a UDP to Okinawa. We trained with the Japanese Ground Defense Force, did some cold weather training. The thing that I say, even then I was a team leader, squad leader. The thing I learned a lot was, especially the workup at 29 Palms, ITX, or I don't know if when you were in, it was ITX or Mojave Viper.
Mojave Viper.
Yeah. Because my brother had told me about that, but like range 400, range 410, dude. Those were the ranges that kind of like, unbeknownst to me at the time, prepared me for, trenches and stuff that would be in Ukraine. So,
that's wild.
Deployed. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think that's something everyone was talking about, especially now in Ukraine with the trench warfare. It's the irony. I shouldn't say irony, but we did trench training as well. I mean, the only guys that are getting that are the infantry guys. The kids that signed up in our infantry school at 18 years old. Like, special operations aren't doing them. No one else is doing them. But Marine Corps infantry, I'm sure the Army probably as well. But I remember doing trench training. Even in my unit before we went to Iraq, we still went through one in Hawaii. So it's kind of crazy to see that come back into such prominence. Again, it's wild. Like, it comes full circle into it. Well, conventional warfare, it's always there.
Yeah,
we just haven't fought a conventional war in forever. So that's pretty wild.
Yeah, man. It's even today, we'll get into that, but like I still go talk to active duty Marine units. I'm going next week to Pendleton, and that's one thing I still stress to the guys is, as a Lance Corporal, I kind of knew, I'm like, this is dumb. Why am I sitting in a hole here in the defense? Like in training, you're like, this sucks, right? And over there, that's a lot of what we were doing, sitting in the defense, eating artillery, stuff like that.
Before we keep going with the podcast, I want to drop this week's discount code for 9line Apparel. We're not just a brand, we're a lifestyle that celebrates the spirit of freedom, courage, and American values. Go check out our gear, including hoodies, glassware, flags, jackets, hats, patches, and much more. All material is ethically sourced, so every shirt you buy is free of slave labor. As a veteran-owned and operated company, we also take pride in giving back to those who've served. Your purchase helps us contribute to charitable initiatives supporting veterans and first responders. This episode's discount code is WOLF20 for 20% off 9line Apparel products. Whiskey, Oscar, Lima, Foxtrot, 20, not 10, not 15, 20%. Not 25 because that's a bit excessive. So get over to the store and get yourself 20% off your next purchase. While you're at it, like, listen, and subscribe to the 9line podcast for future discount codes and more conversations with amazing guests like today. Now back to the podcast. And so when you were in then on the reserve side, what kind of pushed you towards to be a Navy corpsman? We all serve corpsmen. They're awesome dudes, and whatnot. What kind of pushed you into that MOS?
So I was
or into the Navy.
I was working in the ambulance at the time and in the emergency room. I worked doing 911 in LA County. I was running calls in like Compton, East LA, and I was, I was seeing a lot. You see a lot of stuff that you don't hear about on the news, um, you don't, you don't know much about, like, that really happens, gunshot wounds, stabbings, traumas. And I really liked it. I liked the teamwork, with, fire and police. And, I like to be, I realized, I like to be that person that, someone can call to when they need help, because, um, it could be a scary time. And when you see someone coming in who knows their shit, knows what they're doing, it really does bring a sense of peace, to that situation. And being in the Marine Corps, even in the Marine Corps, I had more experience than a lot of my corpsmen, because, they're all reserve too. So a lot of times when my Marines would go down or there'd be injuries, I'd be the first one running in there too, helping the corpsmen. I even started, like, doing all the flu shots and blood draws for my company when we'd have, like, medical, like, stand downs and stuff. So, and I knew I wanted to stay in the military, because the infantry breaks your body down, man. You can't do that forever, right? And so at least as
That's
a
pretty damn true. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, so as a corpsman, at least I could kind of still stay with the Marines and kind of stay in the fight, where I could, essentially still be a rifleman, which is, what an 0311 is, and have a med bag, be a corpsman. So, yeah.
Nice. So doing that, what was that process like then for? Because like I said, most guys don't do that. I mean, how long did that take to kind of get that administration
Uh,
pushed over?
I
So that I'm sure they were kind of like, oh shit, we're losing a really good
oh
Marine,
yeah, they
and
they did not want to
going
sign
over
that.
the Navy.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I remember, my the Navy private service recruit gave me a form to my chain of command and goes, "Have your chain of command sign this." All the leadership. And so I gave it to my company, our CEO, and he's like, he looks at me, he's like, "What's up, motivator?" Takes the paper, and I'm like, I explained to him the thing. He didn't let me finish talking. He just took the paper and walked away. He goes, "You're not joining the Navy, man. You're staying here with us." And he just walked away with my paper.
yeah,
So, yeah, man, but they understood, and I told them, I'd be coming back to them, to their unit as a corpsman, because that's what I want. I think it would also motivate the guys too to see, uh, Corporal Roman, Sergeant Roman come back as Doc Roman, So,
yeah. So what was that like then? Life switching back over.
oh yeah,
Where'd you go for training and whatnot?
dude. So they just gave me a change of uniform. Went in one day to I checked into the Navy Reserve unit, and checked in. They gave me new cami stuff, walked me through the process, um, the whole thing with A school. They explained to me that process too, what it was going to be like. It was pretty. It was smooth, and at the same time, it was pretty delayed because of COVID at the time. Um,
Hmm.
I am grateful that one of my there's a doctor. So at the time, I was working in the emergency room. I had left the ambulance, and one of the doctors I work with, he was also a reserve, and he was a commander. So, and he was at the commander at my unit. He was my commander when I went Navy. So it was cool. So, calling him doctor, in the civilian side now, here we are, I'm saluting him, and, he loved it. Um, the Navy was a big culture shock for me coming from the Marine Corps. It was honestly kind of
Yeah.
the first time I was exposed to, like, even females in uniform, females in your chain of command, like, um,
Hmm.
and it's just a different. I love the Navy, man. It was very relaxed, so from what I was used
Hmm.
to, and I didn't like that. I don't know. It was weird for me. Some people didn't take that stuff seriously. There's you know bigger people in their uniforms, um, and in the Marine Corps, at least infantry, everyone's pretty, like, skinny for the most part, right? PT was a
Hmm.
joke, man. We'd be done with our PT, and I'd barely would break in a sweat. I'm like, this is really it, and yeah, I was so immediately after I was done with training and whatnot, I requested to go to be a corpsman for my unit, which was cool because the chief at my old unit like was expecting me, and he knew who, knew that I wanted to go back there. In terms of the certification, everything kind of carried over. CLS, I already taken like CLS, TCCC. Even on my own time in the civilian side, I took TCCC classes with like local law enforcement. And, I've already been an EMT and was getting ready to go to paramedic school actually at the time because I was trying to be a firefighter. That was the career plan at the time.
Nice.
Yeah.
So everything kind of just smoothly transferred over then. And so did you have to go to any school to be qualified as a corpsman, or did they just kind of like, hey, you're
No, I mean, they just
stopping as a corpsman?
Yeah, they started calling me HM2, which that's the other thing, is getting used to the ranks. It was one of the, there was I want to say he was like HM1. So the Navy, they have shiny ranks, man. So I was like catching myself saluting these enlisted guys, and they were calling me a dumbass fucking Marine, because, dude, we see shiny, and hey, officer in my mind.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, I know how that is. I was a National Guard for a while, and coming into the National Guard infantry, everything's much more relaxed. They're all great. A lot of guys are pretty experienced combat vets, so but the new guys aren't. So they're trying to lock them off. But it is a weird dichotomy of some of the guys coming off of active duty, and then it's really hard to kind of train the new guys because you only have them once a weekend, and then it's like, so if they're shitbagging it, you're like, you can't really fix them. Like, like when we were in infantry active duty, you live with people. So it's like you go into their room and be like, we're going for a run. Like you either lose weight or there's no other option, or you're going to get stronger. We're going to go to the gym with you. Like, we live you 24/7. Like, your life is going to be, you either do it or your life is going to be horrifically miserable.
Yeah.
But in the National Guard, one, it's already relaxed because it's the Army, and it's the Army National Guard. And so then you only see them 1 week in a month. So it's this really, you're trying to train them, you're trying to motivate. It gets a little weird, especially for me, like coming off of active duty and a bunch of deployments. You're like, or not even active, that was a few years after I got out, after I was a contractor. And it was like, oh man, because you were like, man, because you want to train them and go to war.
Yeah.
And they're still kind of deploying at the time, but you're like, I can't get these kids to take anything seriously because they're not going to war. They're not, there's no consequence. There's nothing to look forward to. And obviously we all look forward to like deployments. Like, this is where we prove ourselves, what we do. And it's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot more relaxed. And then I went to division headquarters, which was like a whole nother ballgame. It's just a bunch of officers.
Yeah.
And so it's like, the enlisted are like basically little minions to help, but we're not in charge, even though we're higher ranking.
Yeah.
So it's nice for like a lot of infantry guys, and within the National Guard, that's where you go to kind of like retire or to take a break. You show up, life is good. There's no equipment whatsoever. You go take lunches at Chipotle. You're in at 8 a.m. You're out by 3.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? The responsibility is super low, but you saw a lot of relaxed standards, and it's more on the officers there. But yeah, that's a weird thing.
Yeah.
You're trying to like train for something that they're not going to go do, and you're trying to balance that. But
I tell people that the reserves, it's like what you make of it, and a lot of it falls on you, like your own discipline. How good of a Marine soldier you want to be, because a lot of that learning, a lot of that extra stuff you have to do it on your own. Like active duty, they'll haze you into just studying, knowing your shit, right? And in the Marines, or like in the reserves, you kind of just do your 3 days and you can give 2 fucks, right? Like I've seen some Marines, they just don't care. And so it falls a lot on you to be a good Marine, to know your stuff, to practice, to work out every day. I still work out every day, even in the ambulance where at the fire station, or, find time to go to the gym. But, I always, look the part. You're a Marine first, and then there was issues like that with guys that come out of active duty, and then they call us, at least with my platoon, my guys, we didn't have too much of a problem because a lot of my guys were police officers or, firefighters. They already had careers out here, and these guys are pretty squared away. So then you get this like active duty, 22-year-old corporal who's prior active, and he comes in yelling at us. And a lot of these guys are like police officers, firefighters with like, you know, a degree of house, and they're over here getting called shitbags. And we're like, I don't know, man, you know? So you get it all, man.
Yeah, it's when I got into the guard and I signed in, I actually went inactive for a year and a half so I could go finish out my contracts with the Department of State and whatnot, protection details in Afghanistan. They were like, everyone they tell that's coming in for, especially Marines, a lot of Marines join the guard, you know, or whatever, and active duty. They tell the active duty Army guys, they're like, look, man, this is not active duty. Like, yeah, it's really funny. Like they give you like the guys that are active guard reserves. So they're like ones like in charge, you know, the ones that are in charge throughout the week, you know, they're actually active duty, but they're to the guard unit or reserve unit. They, you know, they sit everyone down. They just like, look, this is not active duty. These kids go home.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, they're, you know, you're going to have to hold their hand.
Yeah, you're
like,
going to pop an aneurysm if you get so mad.
Exactly. You can't, they're like, do not stress about, don't stress it. Like, don't just flow with it. It's going to be a shit show at times. Just, it's fine, you know? And then, and these guys are all like experienced vets, and then, you know, but they're like, that's just how it is, man. Like you're, you know, you can't do anything. You know, you could have an amazing squad and you get one shit bag. You can't fix them. There's no amount of going to their house. There's no amount of, you know, dudes go AWOL. It doesn't matter.
I
like
had
it's
that
just,
issue, man.
Just, you know, that's just how it is. So it is kind of funny hearing that, you know, like seeing that, the difference. But so you're going, so in 2020 you switch over, and how long were you in? And then, you know, like I said, you know, we'll get into Ukraine and then how you ended up there and whatnot. But what was that journey then from, you know, 2020 into, you know, February of 2022?
Yeah. So I was a little, like I said, I didn't, you know, I was starting to not really like being in the Navy so much. I did take advantage of everything, every little course that they offered. And, you know, because a lot of these other sailors were reservists, some of them didn't have too much, you know, they were corpsmen reserves, but they were working other jobs. So, you know, when we'd have drill, I'd kind of teach them stuff from my experiences from either treating Marines or just scenarios in the field that I would, you know, have during the week, you know, for anything from cardiac arrest. I would kind of teach them, you know, the basics, right? And I wasn't liking it so much. And then I was, you know, in paramedic school, and they weren't working with my schedule, because paramedic schools, it's very demanding, and they were like telling me, hey, there's no excuse, you have to show up this weekend for drill. And I saw that there were, you know, there was other sailors who they didn't even show up sometimes because there's no, you know, there was no repercussions for them in terms of like missing a weekend. So I started to see that, and I was like, this is not cool, man. Like in the Marine Corps, if you missed a weekend, you said, you know, you went AWOL, you went UA, you have to answer for that. In the Navy, it wasn't like that so much. So, yeah, I wound up using. I was able to sign this paper with the Navy. I talked to my chain of command where I kind of get released from my contract, and that was in January of 2022. 1 month before. And
timing.
Yeah, man. Seriously, God has a weird way of working things out, man. And so now, you know, come February, beginning of February, you know, I'm kind of happy. Like, hey, you know, I'm a civilian now, like legit civilian. I remember I had a reunion. Me and my boys from the Marine Corps from First Platoon. We always have a reunion every year. And so at the time, a week before, actually now this was into February, a week before the invasion, me and the boys had our reunion. And, you know, we're having cigars, drinking, and we're also freaking grappling, like in my buddy's backyard, right? But we're all kind of talking about, you know, what's going on in the world, and what, you know, there was news that Russia was pushing its forces alongside the border of Ukraine. And so we're all drunk, and I told the guys, like, hey, if this shit goes down, are we going to go fuck up some Russians? And, everyone's like, yeah, hell yeah, cheers. And I was being serious, when I asked that question. And
Yeah.
sure as shit, it was on a Thursday. I think first it was a Thursday. And I was getting ready to go into my night shift when I turn on the news and I see that Russia began its invasion. And the whole time I'm driving to work, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Why am I here driving? I'm in Southern California driving to work when there's a no shit invasion happening. And I'm like, at the same time, I'm messaging my chain of command. Like, some of my buddies became officers that I was in, and they went back to my unit. And I was like, hey, what do you know? What's coming down the pipeline? I'm messaging all the higher ups, and they're just telling me, hey, stand down, because I told them, guys, if we're going to get activated to go, like, I'm going back in. I'm ready right now. I've never let myself, like, physically, even now, I could still pass a first class PFT. So I was trying to see what was the plan, and they weren't giving me much. They said, if anything, they're going to go do help with evacuations in like Kosovo or something with refugees. And so on social media, I started seeing people, veterans organizing themselves to go. And I believe it was that Friday that President Zelensky made the announcement saying, if there's any Westerners or anyone around the world that wants to come join and fight for democracy in Europe, we'll welcome you with open arms. And that's how I knew. I was like, I need to get going. I need to plan this out and get going. And I'm at work, and I turned on every patient TV in the ER to like CNN, Fox, and all you could see is Kyiv getting rocked, dude, like with artillery. And I thought it was like a movie, man. It looked like modern buildings just getting blown up. Nighttime, I saw this one specific cathedral. It looked really pretty, but there were explosions in the background, and I just knew I had to do something. So I remember that was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I bought my ticket 2 days after. So I want to say Saturday, Sunday. I bought my plane ticket, and I kind of told the work, hey, I'm going to be gone. I used all my PTO. I was using PTO to leave. I didn't.
I'll be back.
Yeah, that's literally what I did, man, because I couldn't tell them. I didn't know if I was gonna get in trouble or not. So I just said, hey, personal reasons, I'm going, and flew out, man. I flew out the following week. I took my old plate carrier and just like old shit that I had. I didn't take my Marine Corps camis because I didn't want to be identified as like a no shit Westerner, especially, dude, God forbid something happened to me. If I died, they're going to find my body with these Marine Corps woodlands, and, that was no-go. So I was wearing, it's funny, I tell people I was in Mashun in Kyiv. When I got there, I was fighting in pants that I got from a hiking store, and my Marine Corps waffle top and a beanie, and my plate carrier, dude.
That's wild. So yeah. So how did you coordinate that then? Because I have my own experience with that in that first 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
Did you get on signal? Did you get a hold of some other Westerners going over? Did you know to go to Warsaw, where to border cross, or did you just I'm going to Warsaw?
That's exactly it. I just saw kind of people. I just saw people talking about landing in Warsaw, and then going from there and contacting the Ukrainian embassy. And I already knew that the Ukrainian embassy, they were going to be flooded, man. And so they're not going to get back to you in a timely manner. Especially, I tried. I'm like, hey, this is my background in Marine Corps. I was good with these weapons. I was a designated marksman. I'm a good shot. I have CLS. I have no shit experience with casualties, but they didn't get back to me. So I just flew out on my own. Just bought a plane ticket, flew out here from Southern California, and straight over there, dude. Never having been to Europe. Landed in Warsaw, first I went from Southern California to San Francisco to Switzerland, and then Switzerland to Poland. And I remember when I was in Switzerland, I was there for like an hour and a half, and I was going on social media trying to see if I could find a concrete, like a no shit contact, because I didn't have anybody, that I was talking to, and people kept saying check Reddit, and so I've heard of the app, I'd never downloaded it. I downloaded it right there in the airport, and I like contacted this guy who like posted stuff on like what to know before coming to Ukraine, and he replied like within like 5 minutes. And I was like, hey man, so we exchanged numbers through Reddit. He calls me, and I told him I'm in Switzerland. I'm gonna be in Poland in an hour and a half. I need a ride to Ukraine. I have this stuff with me. I'm a Marine. And he's like, oh no, it sounds good. He just sends me a screenshot of his ETA to the Warsaw airport. And yeah, this guy, no questions asked, dude. He was there, young guy, super cool, picked me up, and he's a young Polish guy, same age as me. But he didn't have military experience, and he just kind of said, hey, like, I'm just doing this because I want to help somehow, and I don't have military experience, but this is what I can do. And he had a little like startup company. He was even paying his employees to like drive refugees back to Poland. So yeah, man.
That's right. So what was that feeling like, man? I mean, like I was, 19 when 18, 19 when I deployed to Iraq, like that feeling you get, like this is the real fucking deal. This isn't Mojave Viper. This
Yeah,
isn't training. Like you packed your bag, and not only that, you're not like, I mean, I was at least with like a unit in the
dude,
Marine
I was
Corps,
by
and the U.S.
myself,
military.
man.
You were like solo, like
Yeah,
I'm about to go up against the Russian military, and I don't even have a contact to get into fucking Ukraine.
yeah,
Like, what's that feeling like heading from, said man, San Diego to San Francisco to Switzerland? What's going through your mind? Are you just listening to
dude.
music, like, all right, let's do this? Like how was
No,
that emotions, man? Like heading in, that's wild.
it was, dude. It was, first of all, the first feeling I felt was this. It's fucking cold out here. Holy shit! Coming from Southern California
Mm-hmm.
to there. Yeah, it was. So it was cold, and I'm like, fuck. I hope I brought like enough stuff for this. Um, People were saying, when I was at the airport, I was doing research. They're like, hey, bring some food, non-perishable food, whatever you can, from Poland. So at the airport, I'm like buying like fucking gallons of water, and like some chips and stuff. I just the one thing I did want is, I've never been to this country. I don't speak the language. Like, I don't speak Polish. Going into Ukraine, I wanted to get my hands on a rifle, and because at least I had something there to defend myself, right? Like if shit goes down, at least I have something I could fight. And we drove, man. This guy picked me up, drove me straight to Ukraine, to the border, and he drops me off, and he's like, hey, just talk to the border guard, tell him you're a Westerner, and so he left me there, and I was like, fuck, man, like I thought you were gonna go cross with me, or some, like, at least kind of walk me through the process, but no, he just kind of dropped me off. He's like, no, this is where my job ends. And so at the gate right there, we're crossing in. The border guard saw that I was American, and he's like, "What are you here to do?" And I explained to him, like, he spoke some English. I'm like, "I'm here to help," and he like told me to, put your stuff in this van and go over here, and they'll take you to a military base. So I go in this van with this dude, and this dude, he was another like volunteer, but it brought some peace to me because he was from like Spain or something, and he asked about my name, and I was like, oh, I'm actually Mexican. I told him I'm Mexican, and he started speaking to me in Spanish. That was cool. So then now we're over here talking in Spanish, and he was driving me to he drove me to like the little base. Oh no, he took me to like a little checkpoint. It's a military checkpoint, and there's all these like military age males there. He takes me right upstairs to talk to this guy. This guy was like a officer, and the officer gets up and he's like, American? I said, yeah. He like shakes my hand. He goes, where? And I'm like, Southern California. I said LA because he's not gonna know, where I'm from. And he's like, oh, Hollywood, and he just shakes my hand, and then he like talks to some guy. He tells him, go downstairs. You're going to put your stuff in this van. And that's when they drove me to that International Legion base, Yavoriv, right? Yeah, it got
Lviv,
hit.
or was that?
It's in Lviv. Yeah. It's like near Lviv. Yavoriv. It was like they just stood it up that week. Yeah, man, we got in that van, there was another American. And so he was former Army guy. And they drove us there. I'm going to kind of speed it up. I know you said we have an hour, but because this is still my first trip, man.
Yeah.
And they drove us to Yavoriv. They gave us some gear and they said, hey, it's a 3-year contract or you stay until the war ends. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? I was like, no, hell no. Like, hey, I'm on PTO here. I need to go back, I need to go back to work soon.
Yeah.
And fucking, long story short, man, I talked to this colonel interviewed me and I was like, he's like, why are you here? Do you want to kill people or why did you come here? And I told him, I'm here to help. I'm a medic. I work in the ER. I was in the Marine Corps. I'm good with like the SAW, M4. I was a designated marksman. So I could do long range too. And he's like, okay. He goes, well, if you want to go to a hospital, hospitals are getting bombed left and right. The best chances for you, if you want to live, you can be a combat medic. And I said, absolutely. And he goes, okay, grab your stuff. You're going to sit over there. There's other foreigners in the circle. He goes, do you want 7.62 or 5.56? And I said 5.56, thinking I'm going to get an M4 or an M16. And no, he's like, okay, points right there. There was like this weird ass, well, I know now it's a it was a Belgian FNC rifle. It was a weird fucking thing with the charging handle on the right, like that you like have to like rack back. And then I'll never forget, he shakes my hand and he goes, happy hunting, my friend. And that's when I'm like, fuck, like, okay, here we go. Like, this is it, man. Yeah. And, not long after, dude, they drove us out there. I don't know if I should speed it up because of the time or.
Oh, no, yeah, you talk, dude, go for it.
Okay.
Talk. I know you got thrown into Battle of Mashun.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
Yeah, dude. So now we're in Kyiv, dude. And we're in Kyiv and they're like, hey, we've had the Russian airborne dropping in. We're loading mags. And as I'm here, dude, it's cloudy as fuck. Like Kyiv looks fucking deserted. Like downtown LA, empty, right? There's bus stops.
Mm-hmm.
There was buses parked on intersections, popped tires. Like the Ukrainians are setting up their own roadblocks. And it just looked eerie, man. It was just an eerie feeling. And they gave us some mags to load, and I was loading some more mags to have. And I remember looking around. I'm like, it is fucking cold. I don't know how we're going to defend this place. Like, this is huge. And there's only like 12 of us, man. And we were joining some other Ukrainian unit that was there. And it's funny, as I'm loading mags, I'm looking around and I saw that cathedral that I saw getting bombed when I was at work, like the week before, the same cathedral. I was like, oh my God, here we are, And man, we get thrown into right into combat, man. We go into this village, and the village is on fire, man. Everything's like, all these buildings are on fire. We start hearing explosions, and this Ukrainian officer, he tells us, he looks at me, he goes, welcome to Ukraine. That Ukrainian officer always wanted me with me because I was the only medic. And he goes, the Russian airborne is over there. We're walking over there. And we just walked, man. Like, and the whole time I'm trying to like remember, recall everything I learned in ITX, dispersion, stuff like that, but dude, it was just a big gaggle fuck. Like they just wanted, bodies thrown in there. And yeah, dude, shortly, I would say maybe 5 to 10 minutes into that walk, we take contact, run into this, we started getting hit with artillery like on us. Then we saw there was Russians straight ahead. They were using these burning buildings, using the smoke as concealment, setting up positions up top. We peeled right into his forest, and they were linked up with some other Ukrainians that were there. And man, that was just we were there eating artillery, man. Like, that forest was dense when we were running through it. By the time we got out, like 3 days later, there was no trees standing, dude. Like, all the trees were falling down all around us. It was the first time I saw like little tiny drone flying overhead, dude. Like, I could have fucking chucked my helmet at it. It was so low, and there was just like a brown grenade tied to it. But that drone was their like forward observer. They were using that to like bracket our positions. And there was like 2 or 3 drones buzzing around, and then like I remember one I saw. We were getting hit with artillery so much, man, that I saw a tree fall down and like knock over that drone. And yeah, dude.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it was wild. And I mean, yeah, man, I mean, I want to get into this, my second trip, but I was there.
Yeah.
I was there for 2 weeks and 2-3 weeks, and then came back. Dude, came back, man, landed back in LA, and then just went back to work the next day as if nothing happened. But I already knew, man. Like,
No shit.
Yeah.
So you went for the Battle of Mashun.
Yeah.
And then you're like, 3 weeks. Like, you like a 3 week went to it'd be like going to like, I took time off, went to the Battle of Fallujah, and then I'm just back. You know what I mean?
Now I'm
like,
back at work, dude.
wild.
Like, freaking doing EKGs and stuff on patients, man. But the whole time, dude, like when I was already coming back, I already knew I was gonna come back. I already had I'm like, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come back more prepared. Yeah, I'm gonna come back more prepared. I know what I need. I know what to kind of expect, you know. And yeah, man, it was wild, man. It was very scary. That's, you know, I did start believing in God more, because I don't know how I wasn't killed, man. I don't know how, when people say, how many, you know, have you had a near-death experience? I legit swear to you, I don't know how many times I've almost died. Like, where I should have died. Over 15, 20 times, more than that. And yeah, man. So now I'm prepping to come back to Ukraine. I'm at work saving money, buying things here and there. And this time, like, I went in more prepared. I took AK optic, because I figured if we're going to get AKs, I got a rail adapter, cold weather gear, because when we're sitting in the defense in a hole, like, you know, my pants are soaked, dude, like from all the mud and stuff. And this time, you know, second time, I was very prepared. I actually met a contact, and he's the one who linked me up to my good friend Yuri. You might have seen him on social media. He
Oh yeah. I talked to him a little bit way back in the day.
Okay.
We were talking on socials.
So he,
you know,
the second time I went, you know, I had a plan. I had contacts, and I went right in, man. I flew out there the same way. My same buddy picked me up from the first time and drove me. And now, you know, at that point, we had pushed the Russians towards eastern Ukraine. So my buddy told me, hey, you're going to, we actually have ACOGs. We have AR-15, like Polish rifles, 5.56 with ACOGs, and we're going to be assaulting trenches. And so yeah, no shit. I was back December 2022 to when I got blown up on Valentine's Day 2023. I was at the 59th Brigade of the Ukrainian military. And yeah, we were in eastern Ukraine, man, in Donetsk area, assaulting trenches, dude. I loved it, man. It was definitely more organized. The Ukrainians and the whole relation with the international guys. It was me and Yuri. He was with me on my first mission. We were doing our SOPs where we would roll up to the trench. In the Humvee, Yuri would light it up with a 50 cal, and then we would dismount and assault on foot. And it was just, I knew, man, after that first mission, that first trench assault mission, I knew it was a matter of time before I got hurt because we were so close, dude. Like the Russians were yelling at us. The Ukrainians were yelling at the Russians before we were like while we were shooting at each other. And then this time I had like Ear Pro. I had like $20 fucking Walker's headphones. And, you know, we dismount, we hear the 50, we're exchanging fire. The Russians are yelling, but now you also hear the Russians turn on their fucking tank. So you could hear their tank in the distance moving and like crunching through the leaves and stuff. And now, like, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking we need to get in that fucking trench because I would rather be in there than out here because that fucking tank. And sure as shit, the tank started working on us, dude. And wherever we shifted positions, like the tank had thermals or something or night vision because they saw us. And yeah, man, we were going on missions. Freaking, we got hit with white phosphorus a couple times. The first time, you know, my first mission, I saw white phosphorus hit a position close to us. From far away, man, it looks pretty. But when it's on top of you, dude, fuck, dude, it's scary. And yeah, man, we were taking these we were assaulting these trenches, and then kind of holding the trench or, you know, staying in the fight until we get picked up by the Humvee again. Because a lot of times as soon as that tank turned on, that Russian tank, the Humvee did a U-turn and dipped out and left us there so we could take the position. Because if the Humvee gets hit, dude, that's our only like evac to get out of there. And so we were doing missions like that. We were our I guess mission was like a reconnaissance strike group. So they would do reconnaissance with drones, look at the position, then that night we'd hit it. And yeah, man, it was it was a wild time. Those were, you know, we'd go from assaulting trenches, getting hit with artillery, and then we'd, you know, get picked up after the mission, go back to base, and I'd like grab my phone at base, and we had Starlink, and I would like FaceTime my mom, and, you know, to see how she was doing. And dude, it's like sunny Southern California, you know, and I'm over here wrapped up in a balaclava. Like it's fucking, it was surreal, man. I thought I was in a dream because it's just so two different worlds.
That is pretty well too with the technology now.
Yeah.
It's even, I mean, you know, I was 05 to 09. So those 3 deployments I did, so it was just completely different. You know, now I can't imagine. You know, I thought it was cool that we had a cell phone I could call home in Afghanistan because we weren't allowed to have them in Iraq when I was infantry, but then I was a combat advisor, so we got to like have our own little Roshan phones. But I could at least like call my parents whenever, you know, and that was the old phones. And I thought that was fucking cool. But now it's like people are FaceTiming, you know, like GoPros, or I mean, like you're seeing the whole war unfold in front of your eyes, iPhones, and
yeah, man, and
it was just insane.
Yeah, and I kind of saw that. I saw that there, man. I never took a GoPro with me. I couldn't afford one. Everything I took was to like straight for, you know, the mission. I bought, dude, I spent a couple grand on like CLS bags, like trauma stuff, stuff to make me more effective out there. And it did, you know, none of my casualties died. And I was very prepared, man. The Ukrainians loved me. The whole stuff with social media. I mean, I've seen people, dude, like I feel like some people go to Ukraine with wrong intentions, man. They go with hopes of trying to become this YouTube, you know, Instagrammer or influencer.
Yeah.
Dude, I didn't make my Instagram until I was on the plane to go to Ukraine. I never had Instagram before that. And only reason I made it was to update my coworkers and family because you could make it public. And that's it, man. That's what I did. Now, you know, now because of everything that happened, me getting blown up, losing my eye, and being on Yuri's squad, you know, my Instagram has I've gotten a decent amount of followers, man. I'm very grateful to the supporters, you know, watching my story, my recovery. Yeah.
Yeah. And how was that? I mean, how is your recovery going? And you can go into a little detail on what happened.
Yeah.
Kind of like the aftermath. How did you get out of there? All that stuff and the surgeries.
Yeah. So we went on a mission on Valentine's Day. We had just come back from a mission the day before where we got hit with white phosphorus. I remember it was very scary for me. I had a hard time going to sleep in that on that after that mission, and we get woken up by our translator. It goes, Doc, like, Yuri, we're going on a mission. Let's go. And I just kind of like woke up again. I was like, fuck it. I was still on my camis. I just threw on my plate carrier, my belt, and my little leg bag where I had all my meds and stuff. Because I couldn't carry a backpack, dude, because trenches are narrow. You can't maneuver with a fucking backpack. And we open we get in the vehicle. I call my mom before, I leave my phone at base for all missions, because in case I was killed, I didn't want the Russians finding my phone. But before I went on mission, I called my mom and I said, hey mom, there's flowers being delivered to you today. Happy Valentine's Day. I love you. I'll call you later. Just make sure the dog is inside so he doesn't chew up the flowers, right? And yeah, man, that was the last phone call I made to my mom. And we go on this mission. On that mission, Yuri opens up with the 50, and I'm just kind of speeding it up, but he starts saying, I got a light on the left side, and he starts repeating it. And the only thing I can do is I'm sitting behind the passenger seat of the Humvee, and I repeat what he said to the translator and to the driver. And while I was repeating it, I just heard an explosion and felt like someone punched me in the face. And I kind of stopped. And I was like, what the fuck was that? I look around. I start hearing Yuri say, get out of the vehicle. And I said, what? Like, where are they? Like, it was nighttime, so I couldn't see anything. And I'm looking around. I'm like, where are they? And I'm like grabbing my rifle, because I'm still like in that mindset where we're about to get attacked. And that's when I hear behind me, I hear Ukrainians run up to my door and they're yelling, Doc, Doc. And that's when I looked down and I had an ammo can on top of me. I was it was on fire. The Humvee was on fire. And then they start dragging me, and they dragged me to the other Humvee where they laid me on my side. And I knew something was wrong when I was getting dragged, because I'm normally the one dragging people. They laid me down in the other Humvee. After what seemed like forever, they drove me to the hospital, but I saw all this blood coming out when I was in the Humvee. It was just pooling blood. I started puking. And, I'm a medic, right? So I know what's going on. I'm like, whatever's going on, I'm losing blood. I'm going into shock, which explains why I'm decompensating. That's why I'm throwing up involuntarily. And I just start kind of praying. I've had patients before they die, they talk about seeing a bright light or they see dead family members. And I was looking around, man. I was laying on the platform of the other Humvee, looking at the windshield. I just saw flashes and stuff, man, firefight. And I was just kind of praying to God, I was looking for my dad's hand, because my dad passed away a few years ago, looking for something, man, but didn't come, man. They got me out of there. They drove me to a casualty collection point, and they put me on a backboard, put me on a gurney. I was awake for all that. I didn't realize how bad my injury was, and I don't know how much time passed until I woke up, because I passed out from the blood loss. But when I woke up, I was told that I lost my eye, and we got hit with a Kornet missile, which is an anti-tank round. And yeah, man, I lost my eye. I started, let my family know, let my best friend know, my best friend Scott. And they're trying to coordinate me getting out of there, dude. And through the coordination, I still had to fly commercial, man. Still had to fly commercial back with a freaking gauze on my face. Landed back in the U.S. a week after. They stabilized me in Ukraine enough, but I was still dude, my brain was bleeding. Obviously, my whole orbital was shattered. I took shrapnel to my hand. I'm sure you could see some of it. But I can't straighten out my middle finger. It's fucked up. I still have scars and stuff from the gloves. My gloves are shredded. And man, the recovery process has been tough, dude. I'm very optimistic. right? But yeah, you know, some days are better than others, dude. Like you still get people here don't understand when we take things here for granted, you know, that, you know, I can't be a firefighter anymore. So I'm in nursing school, and now I'm in school again with a bunch of young kids, right? And some people, dude, I've caught people, they laugh at me. They straight up laugh at me. They look at me, and, you know, I'll open the door for some girls at school, and because I'm going to the library, and I look back, they're laughing at me. They're covering an eye, looking at each other and laughing. And I'm like, dude,
Really.
if they only knew what the fuck was, you know. And yeah, man, it's a process, dude. I try to stay optimistic in the things I'm doing now. Like I said, I'm talking to active duty units about what I learned out there in the trench, fighting. You know how I have my gear set up. I still have my plate carrier, my bloody plate carrier and gloves and stuff. And I'm selling patches and challenge coins from the unit I was with. So I'll show you this, man.
Go to rep that.
Yeah. So ironically, man, before I got hit, this was our logo. It was the skull with the eye patch, and this is Ukrainian letters for Reconnaissance Strike Group. I was with the 59th Brigade. So my buddy changed up the logo. He put the little medical star there with my call sign, Doc, and my initials. And this is a slogan for the 59th Brigade. It says "To Victory." And so, you know, like I said, all this was out of pocket, right? So that's how I'm paying this off still. And it's also helping me pay off school because I don't have my GI Bill, man. I used that when I was trying to be a firefighter or paramedic, right? So I have my challenge coin here too. This has my picture on it with the Humvee that we were in when we got hit. And it has U.S. Marine Corps, U.S. Navy, my favorite Bible verse, Romans 8:18. And it says Sergeant Roman here, International Legion, Defense of Ukraine, and Armed Forces of Ukraine. So I'm hustling these patches, man, trying to make some money here and tell my story, man. Like I said, I think we're pretty, we have it good here where we're at, man. I tell people it's only a matter of time before someone bursts our bubble here. And I always stress, you know, stay ready, be ready, because, you know, I always tell the guys, even after you get out of the military, you know, stay proficient in learning how to use a firearm, using tourniquets, stay strong enough to be able to, like, you know, carry yourself, your family to safety if you have to, you know, because one day that's all you're going to have to protect you, man. Like no one else is coming. So.
No, I agree with you. That's 100% the mentality. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even for me, it's been 15, more than that now. It's been 15 since the last deployment. So it's almost 20 years for me.
Yeah.
So I joined, 2025. I joined July of 05. So it's staying sharp, you know. You might not be the fastest as you were, strong, but at least stay in proficient shape, or you can at least be
stay proficient overall. Absolutely. You want to be an asset, not a liability. And so yeah, man, I mean, even now I went back to the gym shortly, like after my recovery. I still gym. I was doing pull-ups still with like shrapnel stitches they removed some of the shrapnel, but dude, I was still like going after it, going to the gym, like in pain, man, but I was still there, man. I still hit it every day. So
hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's great, man. So where can people find you? You know, like I said, help buy patches and coins, help you, man. You know, with the medical bills and whatnot.
So yeah, man, my Instagram is doc_wolf 03. And that's my social media. That's all I have. For the patches, I got Venmo, PayPal, and it's the same thing. It's just DocWolf03. And yeah, that's, you know, I got my call sign because one of the Ukrainians said I look like a wolf in a cage when I'm in the Humvee, because I was so eager to dismount and run out, because I didn't want to be in the Humvee. I already knew that was a target, you know. So dude, it was. So yeah, that's how I got that, man. But Instagram is where you could find me, and anyone has any questions, and I'm an open book. I love talking about this, man. It's my experience, and I appreciate you taking the time, man. It means a lot. And thank you to Nick. Nick, you're awesome, man. From Battles and Beers, I've known that guy since day one, man. So I appreciate.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on and telling your story.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we'll keep in touch, man.
Absolutely.